Okay, I wondered if we could just start by looking at what elements of NLP you've used to further develop the quality of your teaching.
What I quite often do with a lot of students, I often give them a worksheet to do, a bit like the Mesibov worksheets that we were looking at. And I think the wording of it, trying to make that, I've got in mind in the NLP some of the NLP statements, and often try and word it so it's positive about you can do this, you'll be doing this, this is what you're going to do well, and that type of thing. So, so before I just think we're much more conscious with the language that we use, and I try and put that over, as far as that's concerned, as a sort of starter.
So using those language patterns for
instructions as well. Yeah.
So how do you find that works?
Sometimes the children smile at it, or you say we can do this, but are you sure we can? They make a joke out of it. But I think it's just taking it for the positive. Planning the other day for a piece of work, and I said, you will have done this, you will have done that, and we were going through the positives. And the students were sort of ticking it off, because at first they said, oh, we haven't done that yet. I said, no, but when you have done it, then you can tick that off. And I know they find the sort of Mesibov approach quite useful, some of them, but that worked really quite well on that. I was quite pleased with the way that.
So it's combining the language with another approach, and actually come up with something that works.
Yeah, because they were getting stuck on stuff. Planning for essays, and I said, well, okay, you have chosen your title, you have done this, and now you're going to do this, and sort of using the phraseology of how they're going to go about it.
So the language has been useful?
Yeah, so it's just sort of looking at the language really, or me considering the language, which I'm sure has come from the NLP as much as anything else.
And I'd agree with that, and I think particularly in a one-to-one situation, when you're dealing with somebody who is distressed or whatever, the language is a really useful tool. It's a very useful tool in controlling behaviour and bringing children down. That's what I've really found, that it's given me additional tools, because now I'm not as, you're confronted with a very difficult situation, you don't panic. You sort of have the language within you, and you have the means to sort of calm things down. You're very aware of your use of language and tone of voice and everything about it to de-escalate a situation, which I think has really been helpful with the NLP. And I think also in a one-to-one, when you're working with a child who doesn't really believe in themselves a great deal, it's the possibility that it gives. It's sort of being able to expand things for them and expand their picture of the world by using the language, and just because you're aware of that and you know that that's what you're wanting to do, because that's what it's done for you. So I think that's been particularly helpful.
Can I just comment on a couple of things you said? That you've got kind of techniques that have maybe come from the NLP, maybe a way of managing yourself, if I've got that right, that allows you to kind of calm situations down. What impact has that had, do you think, on the teaching and learning that's taking place in the classroom?
Well, let's say there was an example last week where a child had been in a very aggressive situation, and so you're confronted with a child who's extremely angry, and you've got no one else in the room except the class that you're going to teach, and as somebody who's extremely aggressive. And that would have freaked me out, and I'd have just wanted to call for help beforehand. And I don't think it's like that now, because I thought, well, yes, okay, I know what to do now. It's sort of just understanding how to reduce that situation, and that immediately the voice goes lower and lower and lower. So if they're listening, they can't be arguing back, they're listening to what you have to say, and so sit down and yes, we're going to be able to deal with this, there's no problem with this, we can sort this, but you just need to sit down. And I think it's a really useful tool, and it's something that I don't think I was necessarily as aware of, and until I did the NLP course, and then all those aspects, and the way you are in the room, and how you approach them, and how you body language, everything, all the things that you're giving off that you've not totally been aware of before the course, you're aware of now, and you can utilise that in situations where maybe things are a little bit more difficult.
I think sometimes you sort of go to it consciously, where something happens and you think, right, how can I deal with this? And another time you deal with it, and then you think, oh, I dealt with it in a way that I wouldn't have done before.
Exactly. And you think about it afterwards, don't you, rather than at the time.
Yeah. But I had a student the other day, it's all about coursework at the moment, 10s and 11s, and trying to get some work out. I can't do it, we're banging around the room, we can't do it, and going from well, you said you couldn't do this the other week, and you've managed to do it, haven't you? Okay, well, let's see if we can do it. Let's just make a start. And again, it's coaching them through and using that technique of reminding them of, in the past, that's what they had said, but they have been able to overcome it, and this is where they are now.
It's like holding them in a way, isn't it? Sort of pushing them on. And that's, you know...
I'm absolutely stunned because he's actually coming to the lesson today, which is the second lesson, and he said, I'm going to take that work in a one-to-one room, and I've got three sides of written work out to do because he wanted to finish it. Now, whether that's a direct impact of what I've said, but it'll reminding him that, you know, you can do it. It's giving over those vibes and for them taking that on. Saying, okay,
it's like the language gives them confidence to do things, so it's giving them additional opportunities where you can do this, because they're thinking inside their head, I've been given this task, I can't possibly do this, you know, I'm not capable of doing this, and you should realise I'm not capable of doing this. Whereas the language patterns are allowing you saying, yes, you are capable of this, and you're giving them examples of that, and suddenly they think, oh yeah, okay then, okay, well I can sit down and try. And I think that's sort of, it's like holding them when they're sort of struggling and then giving them the opportunity to move them on.
But it's also saying you are capable, and this is how I know you're capable, because you've actually shown this in the past. This is something you've done before, and therefore can do again. And I think that sort of opens them up quite a lot. I mean, I've used that a few times, and you know, in a greater or lesser degree, it seems to work. It seems to move them on anyway, whichever way it works. So.
And my experience is that I think one of the biggest challenges that we face is increasingly getting students to accept responsibility, not just for their behaviour but for their learning. And if I've got you right, that it's about supporting them and getting them to a point where they can more and more believe in themselves and using the resources they've actually got inside themselves, that they have succeeded in the past and they can do things and they overcome challenges. And then having supported them and continuing to support, but getting to the point where, and now it's over to you, that actually this is down to you. So they're like be at cause, take responsibility. So they take it on through their learning and beyond into whatever else goes on.
And it's a question you give them in situations where they're thinking, I was had a child this morning, one-to-one, and we were talking about that this child felt stupid in a certain situation and was really worried about going into that situation because she thought the people in the room would think she was stupid. So you go through, so where are those thoughts? And I think the language allows you to and she's saying, well, I suppose they're in my head. So who's responsible for putting those thoughts inside your head? Well, I am. Yes, so who's responsible then for getting rid of those thoughts? Well, I am. And it's sort of, it's just giving them the power. They said, that they're in control, they can change things. Whereas they think it's all consuming and nothing's going to ever change and nothing will alter. Whereas, I think the language sort of gives them that, and you've got those skills to sort of open things up for them.
It allows you to sort of unpick, when I had that situation with a student the other day, she has come back to me and we sat down and spoken about it and we started to unpick, and I said, well, sometimes your mind closes up, and it's almost like a ball of wool, you pull the thread and you keep coming out, and she was talking it through, she liked that idea. But again, it's probably helped me to think more creatively, in the sense that you can put that on to the students, and all the time thinking, well, what's blocking her, whereas another time you might just have got irritated by it or frustrated by it, but I actually think, well, what's blocking her, what's stopping her, how can I meet her language, how can I explain it in a way that, because when we sat down at lunchtime and did some work, I said, right, this is how it is in my head. It may not fit what you're doing, so you discuss how you see it. And she worked perfectly in that, but I think from my point of view, it's my way of addressing that by trying to understand their language and how it fits. And
I think what you said, the word you used in creativity, I think that's it. I think it makes you more creative, and it makes you prepared to explore things more than previously. You know, you try it this way, and I don't think you're scared to try it.
No.
So that creativity, that readiness to explore, that maybe greater flexibility is leading to maybe greater success within the classroom, kids having the opportunity to maybe take on more responsibility for their learning and contributing perhaps to to more learning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably making a bit more fun as
And
well.
That's good. Always good. I like that fun.
It's always nice.
Absolutely. Have we seen instances where children have begun to take this on for themselves and to apply it themselves, so that like they're learning to do it for themselves and carry that on?
We've certainly had that with the anchoring, because we had one lesson where we were just doing it before the exams, and anchoring what you wanted, the state you wanted to be in when you went into the exam. So we did that with a number of them, that seemed very successful. And there's one particular student who is going to face something now that's really challenging them. And he said, well, can we do some of that? Should we do some of that? So, well, that's great. So, we did that and said, well, in that situation, what are you going to do? Well, and what will you get there? And that's going to be my confidence and my sense that I can do it, I can really do it, and I can be who I am, and I can get out there and show them who I am. And I think that was fantastic, and really sort of really took that on board. And I thought that was lovely, and saw them doing that, so it's beautiful.
Well, I've certainly seen students using again some of the language patterns on each other, and supporting each other, using that sense of possibility, reminding someone else of previous successes they've had and how they can use that to succeed in the current challenge. So I think it's very much getting out there and becoming part of not just the culture of staff, bearing in mind the number of staff that are trained, but increasingly in the culture, the number of the students begin to spread.
There's quite an awareness, because there's a curiosity about where everybody is, and you'd say that on this training in the early stages, but I think it's quite an awareness that this is part of the training, and where you've worked with people in that particular way one-to-one, and you have. I think it's getting out there, because I know there's various students will mention it. Oh, I'm going to go and do this way, or I'm going to go and talk to Mr. Perry about this, or you're doing that stuff, or whatever it is. So there's definitely awareness, and I'd agree. You hear students when they deal with each other. You don't know whether it's because they're actively thinking about it again, or whether they are using similar patterns that I now recognise. It could be that they're talking and you're thinking, this is what they're doing, and that's really useful. So it's